The Clearing, 5.
Number 5?
Yeah. Thanks to those people who managed to listen to all of number 4, which was a check-in. Number 3, we talked about check-ins, whether it's a cursory "how you doing, mate," through to something structured and perhaps longer. And then we attempted one. Didn't realise at the time, did we?
How long the time
It was going to be 57 minutes of everything that had happened to us in that week.
Yeah.
So hopefully there was something there for people to enjoy. Shorter today, we're going to pick up on one aspect of what we discussed. Mm-hmm. Self-care, which could be hours and hours and hours, and months and years of exploration, but we're going to land it in 20 minutes.
No pressure.
None at all, none felt. You described a balance between responsibilities to your family, to your partner, to your boys, to your clients, and to other things that you're engaged in, and to yourself. So when we use that phrase, self-care, you began to sort of not compartmentalize, but at least be descriptive about, okay, within that, caring for lots of others, there was also this opportunity to care for yourself. Tell me a little bit about what that actually means in practice. When you think about self-care, how do you interpret that?
It's a good question. And I kind of, as you were saying this, I'm aware this was where the question was going to lead to as well. The honest answer is initially, I'm not sure. What I would give examples of, and that might help to answer it, is for me, it's important, as you said, for my practice, for my family, but also for my well-being, is that I dedicate some time, allocate some time, because I can't always dedicate to it. I allocate time for me, punctuated through the day, that gives me a chance to take a breath, metaphorically and literally as well. Now, that might be some breath work, it might be some movement, it might be some reflection, written or mental. It might be a walk, it might be spending time in the sea, it might be spending time with friends, it might be eating good food, it might be, to our point last week, having a beer, having something that is, if we do too much of it, may not be helpful, but with the right dosage can actually be really quite cathartic sometimes as well.
Yeah,
I'm going out to a comedy night tonight with my mates for his birthday. There are elements of self-care in that as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's a social occasion. It's going to be something funny. I haven't seen the boys for a while. So self-care can mean lots and lots of different things. If I was to use one word to try and describe self-care, it would be investment.
okay.
Giving something back to me, and as a consequence of that, the ripples that then are feature in my life to those people around me as well.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah. And not always just then on your own.
Can be. And for me, I love time by myself. I relish time by myself. But we are social creatures, and the benefits, and we know this from the science and from the neuroscience about what happens when we interact versus isolation. It's really important at times that self-care is done in a social setting as well.
Yeah. After our long podcast recording last Friday, on the Saturday, my wife was away, and I had all day to seemingly do nothing, perhaps in her opinion. Nor was I wasting time.
Yeah.
I was actively investing in quality of experience. I was actually on my own, but took more time to do some things which perhaps normally would be rushed or may not have even happened. And that was an incredibly pleasurable experience.
What did you do?
I went and built a skateboard.
Yeah, nice.
And learnt how to do things which I haven't probably done ever, like put grip tape on a skateboard and put the trucks and the wheels on back to front. I mean, it was quite decadent, and pun intended with the deck in decadent, but also, quite self-indulgent. but it was that luxury of time.
Why was it self-indulgent? Why does it feel self-indulgent?
Because I typically don't make that investment, perhaps as you described it. I understand the value of it, and increasingly so. The way I look at this personally is that I have a kind of a battery pack, and there's charging and discharging.
Yep.
And I can feel both sides of that equation somatically. And I'm aware sometimes, and I think that's where burnout comes into this type of conversation. I can feel when the output is greater than the input. And we all know those memes and idioms of sort of, you cannot pour from an empty cup and these types of ideas. I think last week there was just more put into the charge side than the output side. On a typical Saturday, I'm doing breathwork on the beach and then running around doing utilitarian things. That's fine, responsibilities, but took the opportunity this time to load on the charge side.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? When you use the word decadent there, and I think there can be a level of guilt perhaps sometimes when we're investing in something for ourselves. I should be doing something productive for globalization, for the wheel, for the economy, whatever it might be. I have to be outputting in order for me to justify my actions. When we turn that around and we do something for ourselves, often it's very easy that we might have to make an excuse for the reason that we were doing that thing, or it feels a bit indulgent.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it?
I totally understand. I mean, we come from, or we are part of, a culture and economy that values output and productive hours.
Yeah.
That's been true for the last 150 years. And there is toil and an expected output. And I feel this in any given day. Wake up, there's an expectation that there's a period of time that equates in some way to quantity and quality, and feel guilty if I'm using the time differently or the measures are different. I think that is a cultural norm. Similarly, we have responsibilities, and it is sometimes true that we may underestimate the responsibility to ourselves. So yeah, I might have said the word indulgent, but I prefer the idea that it is investment. Tell me a little bit about what happens, Karl, so that you remember your name, Karl.
Is that who I am for a moment?
Karl.
There? Yeah. Who's he speaking to?
Who is this person? Mate, tell me what happens when you're not able to make the same investment that as you would wish or as you normally do. What happens when there's an underinvestment?
Yeah. So I guess I should start by saying, even though I invest in self-care, it doesn't mean I'm not a prick. I can still be, even if I am doing good things for myself, I'm still a human being. And it still means that I may not be able to live up to whatever that might be. Being a partner, being a father, being a clinician, being a friend. It doesn't mean I am perfect. And I don't want to suggest that if you do self-care, then you rise above, you become something other, because that's just not the truth. I can still be an absolute arsehole, even if I'm investing in myself. But what I find is my bandwidth changes. So if I'm not able to invest in myself, I find my bandwidth is slightly less. I have less of a spectrum of I don't want to label it, good, acceptable, tolerable behavior.
Okay.
So this morning I was doing a workout whilst on the phone call to Royal Mail, chasing up a letter to HMRC. Fuck knows where it's gone. But that was a 40-minute workout and a 40-minute on hold phone call that I then had to stop my self-care to do the phone call. There are some things that are non-negotiable for me. And as a breathwork instructor, it would be good to just explore some of that in a moment. But I definitely know when my wife was away at a yoga retreat doing her self-care last week, that I wasn't able to fulfill what I would normally have in my week and my day as a routine that that fits in my schedule. So if there were things I had to omit, I couldn't do them because I was looking after the boys or going to their kickboxing club or having to go and chat with at parents' evening about their adult conversations they're having and what 69 is. So my bandwidth shrinks. I don't feel I have the ability to be adaptive in certain situations if I'm not doing my self-care. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
How do you feel? Did you feel in investing in yourself last weekend and doing something virtuous for yourself, how did that make you feel? You said that you were charging at that point.
Because I knew that I had a week of output, both moving myself physically around the country, moving offices in London, engaging across a number of key sort of projects. So I knew there'd be quite a lot of throughput. I find it a little challenging sometimes to move around the country from hotel to hotel, from even nuanced things like water to water. These things sort of, change the equilibrium in my body. And the frustrations of, say, there not being infrastructure on trains, so you think that you've got 2 hours to, this is back to that productivity point. Yeah. You think that you have 2 hours of unadulterated ability to do stuff on the internet and then can't connect to it, which then creates this kind of heat and friction wherever it's like trying to get through syrup. So not that I've ever tried to get through syrup, but metaphorically, but I came into the week extremely upbeat and energized because there had been learning. I'd learned something. I was pleased with that. There was something playful about it, which was joyful. I had set an expectation of I had thought about where the joyful moments would be. We talked about it. I knew that I was going to see my daughters and there would be some progress in projects that I've invested a lot of time in. So there was a readiness coming in. And so that was, to that point about a battery charge, the time just to say, okay, I'm going to take 2 hours to do a task that I might rush in 5 to 10 minutes or not do at all, was a real investment and an absolute pleasure. How does this land for somebody who's listening to this? How do we anticipate what self-care might mean for us? I mean, I'm going to answer my own question in a minute, but I'm interested to know what you think. Karl.
Who?
Yeah.
You mean the other one?
The other Karl.
Yeah. Ask me the question again.
How, if somebody's listening to this and they go, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. Where do they begin anticipating what this might mean for them? Mm-hmm. And whether that is in balance or whether there's an opportunity for them. Where does somebody start with this notion of self-care?
I think it has to be something that resonates with them. If we said, right, everyone who's listening to this, now go away and make a skateboard, learn how to put the grip on the skateboard, balance the wheels out, I'm pretty sure that some people will go, that sounds amazing. Why would I not do that? And there'll be people that will go, no, just no. It has to be something that resonates with the individual. Mm-hmm. So, if it does resonate with you, whatever the activity, then you're more likely to do it. It has more grip. It has more traction to it as well. If it is just a list of things that someone else has given to me, it's probably not going to mold to me. I'm not going to resonate with it, and therefore I'm more likely to drop it. For me, breath work is incredibly important to me. And it's now that's one of my non-negotiables. Every day I will do at least 10 minutes of mindful practice that might include, obviously I'll breathe, some kind of breath work to it. If someone else was watching me, they might think, well, what is he doing? He's just sitting there doing fuck all. He's being idle. But for me, that's the best investment I can make in myself. Mm-hmm. I can do it walking around the house. I can do it sitting on the toilet if I want to. For me, that resonates deeply with me on many, many levels. So it's easy for me to buy into that. It's easy for me to make that a non-negotiable. For someone else deciding what's right for them, it has to resonate with them. A runner is more likely to run. All right? Someone who plays pickleball is more likely to go and play pickleball. If it fills you with joy and it means that you look forward to it excitably, dancing is another thing that, again, is now becoming a non-negotiable for me. Every other Friday, go and dance in Brighton. And it's now just becoming part of my routine and part of my schedule. We want the path of least resistance here. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a tendency, isn't there, for people to think about self-care as therefore being diet, exercise, morning routines, structured training, pastimes like supboarding, or I mean, we talk about these things quite often because we live next to the ocean, but if you're in inner cities, it would be different potentially. However, it can be reading or enjoying film. And also it can be in the active side of the autonomic nervous system. This is not all down regulation, 2026 trend of the year. It's not all the sort of passive things. It can very much be the active side as well.
Yeah.
So it could be something that's incredibly explosive. It could be building a jigsaw. It could be reading a book. To your point, it's not one size fits all.
No.
And it's not only the well-being industry. It's not. It can be that, but it's not only that.
I love that. I really, really do love that, because what that might lend itself to is someone going, I do some of that already.
Mm-hmm.
So actually becoming aware that you're doing things that are good for you, even if you're doing them discreetly, without cognitively going, I am putting aside now time to be nice to myself. I make good food. I like cooking. I read a book. When you said puzzles, we do jigsaw puzzles with our boys. So again, something becomes a connection to other and others. And because of that, I hope it's starting to maybe open up the possibility that people can do a whole host of things that don't necessarily have to be health and fitness industry based.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hashtag down regulation. It doesn't have to be a class in a gym. It can be these things, but actually it can be watering a plant.
Yeah, absolutely. I put a post out earlier this week, or certainly an animation of some sort, that these clearing codes about readiness and preparation, and that when I come to my desk every morning, I will clean it. So first I'll clear it, and then I will clean it. And previously I might have framed that as being mild, and I use that phrase carefully because I understand for those people who suffer with this, it can be significant and have huge consequences to their life. There are tendencies which are in that realm for me, cleanliness being one of them. I've reframed that as a investment in my self-care. I'm taking the time to create a space within which I may be able to think more clearly. So the practices that we have don't necessarily need to be either productive output or performative. They may be quite subtle. I like that idea, Karl, that you talk about, that it's useful to become observant. So one of the things I do when I'm coaching people is to say, take a look at your week. Your waking week might be something like 120 hours of total time, give or take a little bit, depending on how much sleep you're using, let's call it that, or having. What do you do for those 120 hours? And I would actually recommend that people write it down and spend a little bit of time, maybe, and this is an act of self-care, to say, okay, I will, first of all, I'll bring this into my conscious mind. 45 hours of work, 16 hours of commuting, 5 hours of shopping, 3 hours of explosions, and you end up with a small amount of seemingly available time. And then the question might be, well, what do we do with that? And then to ask the question whether it's in balance or in equilibrium, kindly. So often the answer will be, no, that doesn't feel quite right. However, it's possible to look at it and say, okay, well, just what is currently going on? And have there been times that balance has been different? And are there opportunities if you adjust the time? So this is to bring it into awareness.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when I've done this with people, they're like, okay, I have 2 hours that we might recognize as self-care, then there can be a discussion as to whether that is sufficient to recharge the batteries. So that's a useful exercise that can be quite practical to say, okay, and I think to your point, cooking can be part of that. You go, actually, there's 4 hours of cooking here, but that is and can be about self-care. Not least because it's a pleasure to eat, but it's also maybe a pleasure to prepare and to experiment with new things. It can be, okay, I'm gonna see that as an investment in myself. So I think that's an exercise that I'd certainly recommend.
It really is. And it opens up an opportunity for possibility. I know my wife does not see cooking as self-care.
Sure.
She sees it as performative. It's functional for the family. She doesn't enjoy it. But what she does is she listens to a podcast while she's cooking. We might have the journey, the commute to and from the place that we're working to. Part of my self-care is when I sit at my desk, I do my breath work. I do my mindfulness. That's part of my arriving practice.
Yeah.
We've got opportunity.
Yeah.
It depends on how we might see that. I have to walk from home to train station. What can I do on that to make it a little bit nicer for myself? Are there small acts that might happen within those settings? I agree. I would really encourage anyone who's listening to this to do exactly what you've just said there. And I do it with my patients as well. Take a look. See where there's opportunity in your day and in your week, and invest in yourself as an opportunity to go, it doesn't have to be hours. It might be 2 hours of doing a skateboard. It might be, as I said before we did today's podcast, I feel I need to go on a big 5 or 6 hour walk by myself up into the countryside. That's not readily available. I can't just drop that into the pool easily. So some things require a bit more self-care to plan. And I often say, do things daily, do things weekly, do things monthly that require a little bit more planning. But if you can outlay your average day and your average week, it gives you windows of opportunity. And your question was, and it would be interesting just to explore this a little bit more, does this allow me balance? Does this allow me a point to recharge? Because most often, I'm making a broad statement here, I would imagine most often, most of our actions and responsibilities in our week are depleting, are draining of our resources.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. I like that idea of, rather than adding to the 120 hours, which one can't actually do, and the load becomes too much. Looking at the opportunity in how we do spend our time and asking ourselves whether it is mostly beneficial. I'll give you for example, I've spent probably 10 hours of this week on trains, and I tell myself that I'm going to have unadulterated email time, filing emails, responding to emails, and doing tasks that have sort of built up on a to-do list, which are mainly digital. Most of the things that I do are client side, i.e. not on my desktop. They're in some cloud somewhere and require applications. And then I get onto a train, there is no internet because there either isn't the infrastructure or there are lots of people trying to access stuff. And there's simply not enough bandwidth for me even to do something simple like email. But rather than shut the laptop and choose to do something else and know that that is an opportunity, I go through this friction of frustrated attempts to get something done. The learning for me is to be observant about that and to say, okay, is this truly helping me be a productive manager, a productive leader? Is it helping me be a productive breathwork instructor? Is there an opportunity for me to put the laptop away and say, what can I do with that 2 hours that is not reliant on a digital interface? For example, that's not always going to work, but it might be an opportunity. And it's not sort of adding more hours to the load, but reframing the ones that I already have.
Absolutely. I think it's really, really, and it's bringing up for me, I think it's really important, and it's bringing up for me a really interesting notion. I'm going to just describe a patient I saw yesterday and just see how this lands. So he works in tech. he rolls out of bed at 10 to 9 and logs on at 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a few issues with that already. And he will work through, often not leaving his desk space. He gets his meals delivered. He does all right for himself through a company. I think it's Thrive or something like that. All of his meals are delivered. They're balanced, but he doesn't have to prepare them other than heating them up. And he will work all the way through till about 8 or 9 at night. He might then take a break shortly, but he'll jump from one device to another device. His girlfriend, he's in the UK, his girlfriend's currently in the US, and he then waits to speak with her at 2 a.m., often on a device. They might play some games on a device. They might watch a film on a device. So his day is very much squeezed to little sleep, and I use that in inverted commas because he's not sleeping very well. The Lumi light that you mentioned earlier on is something I'm going to recommend to him, Lumie, to help with circadian rhythms. We're not sponsored by them, but that would be a good sponsorship. We've done all the dishwashers.
We've done the dishwashers. We need to
expand our electrical horizon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of screen time for this guy, and I did try and point that out to him yesterday, but that's his life. And he admitted this is what it's like to be a digital nomad and to work for these big companies like Google that will just drain you and expect you to be on at all hours.
Well, that is the currency of many of those platforms. It's highly addictive. That stuff is not accidental. It's designed into those applications by people who are world-leading experts in, for example, dopamine, and how that then works in an interaction. Not to say that we are non-digital and totally analog, either of us. It's true, and these things are important, and increasingly we may be dependent upon, there's that phrase, on some of that connectivity. However, I still think that if we have no choice but to use them for work, we do still have some choice as to whether or not we use them entirely for our entertainment. And that there may be an opportunity. I know that I can doom scroll too as a form of using time. I also am very well aware that there are far more enriching experiences for me. I don't always choose to do them. We're human and we fuck up. That is an opportunity. And so when you're doing this audit of your time, do then go and see what your screen time is and have a look at that on an app and go, okay, I seemingly have spent 9.5 hours on social media this week. And yet I didn't put that in my 120 at all. So somewhere in the cooking, the cleaning, having a shit, going commuting, whatever it is, I seemingly find 9.5 hours. And it's okay that some of that time is screen time. Mm-hmm. I've enjoyed the Winter Olympics through Instagram. I haven't had time to sit and watch it, but I've picked snippets up of what has been going on with the IOC and the Ukrainian athletes, for example. I've seen some people who failed, but been incredibly resilient in failure. I've seen some people who've succeeded and some spectacular sporting achievements. Some dude running up a hill in a skiing event faster than I can run on the flat. Quite remarkable human sort of experience. Nevertheless, if I know the quantum, I can ask the question, is this providing me with the balance that I need in my life? And that will ebb and flow at different times. The other thing that I talk to people about is, and maybe we'll sort of draw towards a close here, is asking oneself in the morning, what is the one most important thing that I do today? And I use that as a prompt and sometimes ask people to write that down. And I would challenge people to think about how many times do we answer myself? And I have to take time to care for myself today. There will be a list when people sort of say the one most important thing. There'll be 4 things. Yeah. And okay, you cannot prioritize multiple things. Priority from the origin of the word means the one most important thing, but I wonder whether we take the opportunity sometimes to put ourselves at the top of that list. Similarly, in closing the day, we can ask ourselves the question again, what was the one most important thing that I said, and did I do it? Or what actually became the one most important thing, and was it me? Or was it something else that I chose to put in front of perhaps what I may have needed? And to take stock of that such that that might inform the following day, the following week, to your point, the following month. So again, to hold this inquiry quite lightly and non-judgmentally, because that would be ironic, to do self-care practices that are actually becoming intimidating and claustrophobic. Yeah. But to bring it into the conscious and just say, okay, what is the opportunity here? So that, the one most important thing. What about for you, Karl? What's the takeout from this conversation?
Yeah, I really like that. And just to acknowledge that as well, we're not labeling whether that is a good or a bad experience, are we? It's just a simple observation, trying to remain as neutral to that as possible. For me, the biggest take home is self. It has to work for you in order for it to be self-care. If it is not your thing that resonates with you, it's not going to be self-care.
Yeah.
It could be, it might be, but it might also be depleting of you. So where possible, and as often as you can in doing a day and week audit, recognize that there is time for yourself to do something that is likely to recharge you. And that might be screen time. It might be reading. It might be walking. It might be going to bed a bit earlier. There's lots and lots of different ways it can show up. As long as it is resonating with you and you alone, that's the most important thing.
And involves a skateboard.
at least a skate. Maybe two skateboards.
Or 2 skateboards at 56. There's actually 3 in the house. I think the people at the skate park are like, when is this going to stop? Let's close with thinking about the next 48 hours. What is the opportunity for you for a moment of self-care? What's that going to look like?
I can see quite a few, but this is what I'm geared towards already. Today is self-care. Doing this for me is self-care. This is warming, heart-warming, nourishing, nurturing. I walk away from here feeling uplifted. So even in the moment, we can go, I might pivot. Can I pivot? Can I take a slight step back? Bigger activities for me. Tomorrow morning, it will be some time on the sea. The weather's looking good here. It's going to be bright and light, so I will take out some time, even if it's a walk by the sea, but I'd like to get on the sea. And we're seeing Nicole's family. Her mum and dad are coming, my wife's family. Her mum and dad are coming down, so we'll get a bit of time to spend with them. And it'll be a different family dynamic. I'm also going to a comedy night tonight. So it's going to come in lots of different guises.
Mm-hmm.
What about yourself?
I have time with friends ahead. So to our earlier point, it doesn't have to be solitary time. Those people will be here for a couple of days, which I know there'll be humour because that is the nature of those friendships. There'll be a lot of banter. We will probably either run or skate or jump in the sea or do something which will be a kind of a collective act of self-care. And then I will seek a quiet moment, whether that's a meditation or whether it's, as you say, somebody going, that person is just idling.
Yeah.
It may be a walk along the beach. So some balance, busy week ahead. So want to make sure that the interactions are balanced with a moment of reflection, perhaps. That for me will be what the weekend looks like. Let's see what unfolds for us.
Yep.
And we look forward to gathering again in the clearing next week.
Always a pleasure.